Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away. And all the neighbors came around that evening and said, "That's too bad." And he said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Why, that's great, isn't it?" And he said, "Maybe." The next day, his son was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it and was thrown and broke his leg. And all the neighbors came round in the evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" And the farmer said, "Maybe." And the next day, the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round that evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And he said, "Maybe."
You ready?
I'll be there.
And you know who's here with us today?
Hello.
On Zen
Zen
Farmer.
Farmer. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is our 5th episode of this awkward ass. Excuse me. We'll come back to that. This is our 5th episode of this amazing podcast that we've been recording for the Clearfield Jefferson Drug and Alcohol Commission.
That's right.
Hi, my name's Kurt.
I'm Jen, and we have a very special guest with us today. Our friend Leah.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi,
Welcome, Leah.
An honor and a privilege to have Leah with us today.
Thank you.
She reached out and said, "I'd like to be a part of this and, kind of share her experience with the sort of thing that we've been discussing over these episodes." And absolutely, we wanted to get her in as soon as possible. So we arranged for her to come on this morning. Thank you, Leah. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. Thank you very much for
Awesome.
having me.
Very welcome.
Yeah,
Very grateful to have you here.
well, thank you.
Yeah. So, Leah, do you want to share with us some of your journey?
Sure. I guess we will start this right out and get the good juice going to captivate the audience here. And so I'm going to try and do the Reader's Digest version, or we will be here all day and all night. But like any story, there's a beginning. And so picture this, 7/29/1975, the day I was born. No, just kidding. Just kidding. So I guess, let's start at the beginning, back at childhood. I would say that my childhood was better than some and not as bad as others, but I did experience some traumas when I was young, and so not that I tried to use my childhood as an excuse for where things went later in life. I would say it was, definitely a contributor. But I can always remember, as far as I can remember back, that I always wanted to be somebody else. I did not want to be Leah. I figured everybody had it better than me, and so I can specifically remember one moment sitting on my front porch. I was probably 12, maybe 13, and just, where can I be? Who can I be? Because Leah is not who I want to be. So, a lot of my childhood is very much gone from my brain. Like, I don't know if it's a defense mechanism or what, but then, as I became a teenager, I experimented a little bit, did some backwoods kegger parties and smoked a little weed. And, by the time I ended up at business school, um, the experimentation became a little bit more. There was some cocaine and things like that, but nothing that I would say I was quote unquote addicted to. Just, occasionally here and there. It was not until I was 29 years old that I was introduced to opiates. And I had no idea that doing a few of those would turn into a let's see, that would have been 2004, and I got sober in 2012. So, what, 8, 9 years of tremendous addiction. I mean, just tremendous addiction. And what's odd is that during this time of my major addiction to opiates, again, I had no idea that doing a few would turn into like dependent. And so I guess so anyway, I kept working. I maintained a job. Never got arrested, surprisingly. And so I always categorized myself as someone different. Like, I was not some quote unquote trashy addict. I mean, that's how I justified it all the time. So I always worked, and even during my deepest of addictions, and then I'll say that my second husband, who obviously is my ex-husband, introduced me to those, to that lifestyle. And I don't blame him for my addiction. I made the choice to take those, first pills, but it was just easier because that was my supplier. And so, so yeah, my addiction lasted for about 8, 9 years. And then in November of 2012, I was forced into recovery. My ex-husband was arrested, federally charged with drug trafficking. And I will never forget that day. I had just taken my son to the school bus, and I come back to the house, and I was sitting there watching the Marilyn Monroe box set. Like, I can just completely envision it. So there I am, 7 o'clock in the morning, watching the Marilyn Monroe box set, and I saw lights reflecting off the TV from the window behind me, and I turned around and looked, and just agents come swarming the house. And so I went to go answer the door, but I don't know, maybe some words were exchanged, like, I'm coming, and they didn't hear me. I don't know, but anyway, they Billy busted through my door and handcuffed me, and my ex-husband was sleeping at the time, and pulled him out of bed and raided the house. And I mean, part of it feels like it was 10 minutes, the whole thing, and part of it felt like an eternity. But this was kind of like almost an all-day event. Tore my house up. They found what they needed to find and took him off to jail. And honestly, the first thing that popped into my head was, what am I going to do about getting drugs? Yes. My connect just got arrested. What am I going to do? So, I mean, what was I going to do? So it took me a couple of days to decide, because at this point I had a lot to figure out. Like,
Absolutely. That was life changing.
oh my God, yeah. So I decided that I was going to have to do something outpatient because, I had a son that I had to provide for at the time, and I needed to figure out what I was doing with everything. The house. Was I going to eventually get arrested? Was this over? What was... It was just a very insane time. So I chose to do an outpatient MAT program, and it was based out of Clarion. And so I was prescribed Suboxone and did outpatient counseling. And again, full disclosure, not going to lie, I started out doing it to keep from getting sick.
Absolutely. And that's understandable when we're, again, I was also an opiate addict, so I understand the fear of withdrawal is a terrifying thing.
I mean, the worst. The absolute worst. So, so that's what I decided to do. And I probably took me, the more I started getting a clearer mind from being off of the opiates and being on the Suboxone, and the doctor I dealt with also helped me with, mental health medications. The more my mind became clear, the more I started to work the program. And it just happens. There are times where I can talk to somebody and, try and share a little. And, I feel like everybody in recovery says, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
But if you could I just want to take my brain out of my head and put it in somebody else's head so they can see it through my eyes.
Yes.
Because you can't really explain how the change happens.
I agree with that.
It just does.
It doesn't happen overnight. Like, we look back on it now, and it's so hard to look at it like, well, I got here somehow.
Yeah.
Was it one swift, quick movement?
Right.
Obviously not, but it almost feels like it does at this point.
Yeah.
You've been so long in your recovery now. It's like, when was the moment that I knew that this was going to be the right move?
Right. And I always say, my recovery from drug date is November 1st of 2012. Was it the day I got clean? Quit using drugs? No. It was the day that I started this journey.
Yes.
Was it in November that I quit doing drugs? Yes. And moved on to MAT? Yes. So I always say that my recovery date was November 1st of 2012, because that was the day that I started this recovery journey.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love how you put that, Leah.
Yeah.
Because it's a process.
Yeah. And it's such a process that, let's see, so that happened in January, or why do I keep saying January? November of 2012, that happened. But then in October of 2020, so how many years is that? 8 years?
Yeah.
I decided to quit drinking alcohol. So it's forever a journey.
Yes.
Even today, things are different today than they were 2 months ago.
And it's because we're different, because it's that continual growth process.
Right.
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, it never ends.
No, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because everything's new.
Right.
we see everything in a completely different light as we continue to grow,
Right.
and evolve.
Yeah.
I'm grateful I'm not the same person I was a year ago, 10 years
No.
ago.
No.
It's
Yeah.
we want to see what our true potential is.
Exactly. And, as time goes on, I don't know the statistics or the percentages, or like, I don't know from the, they say that you stop growing mentally at the age you start using.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I was older than I would say most people are when they,
Well, yeah, I started at 14.
right.
You were 29.
29. Yeah.
Mhm.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know where I was going with that.
Statistics.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, my mind just went blank.
That's okay.
I
Happens
don't even
happens to me
know.
all the
I
time.
don't know. So anyway, let's go on to the next subject because I completely lost my train of thought.
Do you mind if I add that, like, excuse me, we're filming, excuse me, we're taping early in the morning, and I'm a little backed up still, but excuse me. So like, it was, I hate to use this word, but it was like a violent awakening for you
Yeah.
to have the door busted in,
Yeah.
and from that moment,
Yeah.
life was never going to be the same for you.
Right. And at that, even before that, like, I had succumbed to the fact that this was
Your life.
my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
we
I would,
accept it.
yeah,
Mhm.
that I was always going to be addicted, that every day I was going to wake up and count pills to make sure I had enough to last me through the day. And if I didn't, where in the heck was
Yeah.
I going to get them? Like, it consumes
Mhm.
every ounce of
Yeah.
everything.
Yep. Complete focus.
Yeah.
On it. Yeah.
Like, to the point where, I can only speak for myself, but like, any memory of anything during that time is gone.
Yes, it's almost like I can remember things that happened that were significant, but
Yeah.
I can't tell you when. And
Yep.
it's almost like looking back at like some weird dream.
Yeah.
It's very fuzzy.
Right.
Yeah, I can completely relate
Yeah.
to that.
Uh,
Even early recovery, I think, is kind of fuzzy as our brain tries to heal and get all,
Mhm.
the post-acute withdrawal syndrome. We're still
Yeah.
losing.
Mhm.
It takes a long time for us to clean that out of our system.
Like
Yeah.
my clearest memories of the first days, the first weeks was like, time isn't even moving.
No.
I remember that pretty clearly.
Yeah.
Just laying in my bed thinking, an hour is taking a whole day,
Yeah.
and that was the hard part for me,
Mhm.
right? In the coming weeks, I started to feel a little better,
Mhm.
but the first days, the first 7 days maybe,
Mhm.
that was definitely the most difficult. And although I realized that, I had wanted that recovery for so long, I was just unable to put myself to it.
Mhm.
But in your case, Leah, do you look back on it now and are grateful that it had to happen that way?
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, by the grace of God, I did not end up in prison too.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I certainly, I don't necessarily question it. I just know that there was obviously a different plan for me. And as I look back at all the things that have happened between then and now, I know that there was another plan for
Yeah.
me.
I call them bonus days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like each and every time I get up now is so exciting because
Mhm.
I learned to have these plans and to look forward to things, whereas my life in addiction was, I just want this to stop, and I don't
Mhm.
really care what happens to me.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's part
can
of that
this-
shift.
Yeah. Or can we just go from being ill to being fine and not have to do all the in between?
But we wouldn't appreciate it.
I know. I know.
And in reality, there's 3 of us sitting here that we should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And here
Mhm.
we are
Mhm.
sitting here
Yeah.
laughing and sharing
Yeah.
and connecting, and that's what recovery is all about. And when I
Right.
remember that, things that happen in my life that maybe are minor inconveniences,
Mm-hmm.
we keep them at the right size instead of my brain, my mind
Right.
blowing them way out of proportion. It's that
Right.
gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, even all these years later, so what, 11, it was 11 this past November. Like, it's weird, like in moments where I'm just silent, like getting ready for work or what
Mhm,
have
yeah.
you get an overwhelming feeling of guilt,
Mm-hmm.
of who you were
Yeah.
and what you did back in those days. But now those moments only last a very short period of time. And I have learned to feel those feelings of guilt, forgive myself, and
Mhm.
then go about my
Mhm.
day.
That's beautiful.
And
Yeah.
and I feel much better. But I don't know that that will ever go away. I guess you just have to learn how to,
You learn how to manage it.
yeah, yeah.
And combat it.
Mm-hmm.
Because those thoughts too aren't also us. You
Mhm.
know, like when our mind will tell me, like, you're stupid, nobody likes you.
Mhm.
You know, or it just goes down this line.
Right.
Worthless.
Right.
You
Mhm.
know?
And I can tell you that for a long time, well, not necessarily a long time. So I started the treatment program in November of 2012, and then in August, I believe it was, of 2014, I actually became employed by the Drug and Alcohol Commission.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Shout outs.
Yeah. So I started here in 2012. I was 2 years into my recovery, and I got the job as the receptionist. And even at that time, 2 years in, I still was separating myself from the quote unquote trashier addicts. I mean, I don't know. It's so horrible to say, but that's how I felt.
Well, I
Yeah.
can relate to that. I
Yeah.
remember being in rehab the first time, and these girls, they were sharing like things they had done. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, I'm not like that. Like, I
Yeah.
would never do that." And
Yeah.
then guess what happened?
Yeah.
Later on, I did all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So I would separate myself from, and I, wasn't open to anybody about where I'd come from, and
You still had that. You still had
Yeah.
that shame associated with it,
yeah,
and that's part of the stigma.
yeah.
Yeah.
I as a recovering addict was stigmatizing
Hmm.
those with
We-
addictions.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this before in the
Yeah.
podcast. How
We've all, I think, have done that.
Yeah.
It's the disease's way of saying you're not like them.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can keep doing this. It's
Yeah.
always trying to find the back door to come in.
Mhm. You never
Right.
sold your body.
Yep.
You never did, you
You
never,
never been to jail.
Right.
You know, all
Right.
these things.
right. Yeah. So,
I was somehow able to hold a job drinking a 6-pack of
Ex-
beer each day before going in.
exactly.
And then I would sit there and judge other people who came into my bar.
right? Like,
Yeah.
wow. There's something
How about it?
Yeah.
screwed up about that,
That's a
right?
totally fair
We're
take.
backwards
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But and I wasn't a, go to meetings and share my stuff, and I'm just going to go ahead and hide and do what I need to do, and nobody would be the wiser. And so, as time went on, that I worked at the commission, and I started to feel safe with the people I worked with, and because that's what the commission does. They
Right.
help people
Yeah.
find their appropriate level of care and facilitate getting them where they need to be. And so, as I started seeing this and how staff was, and I started opening up more about my recovery, and that I wanted to do something good with it, or I just
You
felt like I
wanted to
needed to
give
do
back.
yeah,
You wanted
yeah.
to, yes.
Yeah.
So we go through all that pain,
Mm-hmm.
and then we find the solution,
Yeah.
and we want to share that with others.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So I was in the MET program for 4 years. So, and I could be getting dates wrong. I mean, I don't know. At one point, I know that I was off MAT. So that was 4 years. So that would have been, I don't know, maybe 2018 or something. Susan Ford, the retired executive director of the commission, afforded me the opportunity to get my CRS certification. And so, I don't know if you want to explain what a CRS is, but I mean, it's somebody who's in long-term recovery, and they basically can relate and offer assistance to those that are in early recovery themselves.
Perfect.
I mean, is
Perfect
that pretty
definition.
much
That's it.
sum up that? Okay. So, yeah, and if other people had hand in that decision making, thank you very much. I just know Susan opened that door for me, and I will tell you what, it changed
Everything. Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I thought, I am never going back to school. I'm just going to be the receptionist, and I'm going to do my thing and be done with it. Well, no, that did not happen.
Susan had other plans.
Yep. Side note, Susan had other plans. So, yeah, I got my certification as a CRS, and I became the commission's first CRS, and yeah, and so then
she's the godmother.
Look what you started.
Yeah, I'm the OG.
Right?
The OG.
We all follow in the footsteps of Leah now.
Okay. Yes, my children. So
We'll kiss the ring.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, you may have been one of the first in the state at that time too. The
Yeah.
program was I think
It was very fresh.
maybe a year or two at that point.
I don't know.
You know.
What? So anyway, so yeah, I did that, and then they opened up the program more, and I believe
I was the second, I think.
you were the second. You were the second, and then
I'm
He's the fourth, I think.
really,
Fifth? I don't know.
was Amanda hired before you?
I had one
Oh, okay.
when I was a client for the commission,
Oh.
and I think he may have been one
Oh.
of 2 or 3 working.
Oh.
Mr. I'll give him a shout out. What's up, Tim? Thank you for everything, brother.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about
And
that.
you know, and I had no clue what that program was. A case manager said, "Hey, would you be interested in this program?"
Mhm.
He's basically just a dude, in
Mhm.
recovery. He wants to get you set up with the recovery community, and it's not like a clinical thing. It's like, you guys are basically the same. And
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that sounded cool. I could probably stand to learn something from somebody else because I'm not going to meetings and,
Yeah.
doing all these things that people are suggesting because I still had bias and other judgments,
Yeah.
just like many of us do.
Yeah.
So I definitely was able to gain benefit from the one-on-one thing,
Mhm.
and when I said to him, Tim, like when I stopped bringing beer to band practice, there was no more beer at band practice. It was so weird. And like we just hit it off immediately on that level, and having that person to kind of verify these things for me, like that really changed my life. And he was one of the first ones to suggest that I pursue that program.
Yeah.
And here we are years later. I couldn't be more thankful for that opportunity.
I mean, this program has gone.
Yeah.
It just continues to
Mhm,
grow.
mhm.
And like we're doing different things now too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Carol Jackson for having enough faith in us to let us try to do different things.
Right.
I mean, look
Right.
at we're like doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I know. I was in shock and awe.
I didn't mean to press that one.
Yeah, you did.
What was it?
For
I
Leah
can't
that doesn't
hear.
have headphones,
Yeah,
it was a
kissy
kissy.
sound.
Do you want
That
to do?
sounds about
Do you want
right.
to do the other one? It's
I don't know which one it is.
it's Cheers.
Yeah, there we go.
Yay,
Yay.
Carol.
Yeah.
No, it really has continued to grow. I mean, we're able to go in the jail. We started a meeting here for folks that don't necessarily feel like they fit in a 12-step program.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
It's-
And let's be real here. I mean, somebody who has lived with addiction cannot relate, or well, I mean, I can't say cannot, but especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
like you're sitting across from somebody that has no idea what you have lived with, what you have done,
how you feel.
how you feel.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I'm not saying therapy is, not to do therapy or any of that, because it helped me tremendously. There were no such things as CRSs and,
No. Yes.
but,
We've walked this.
mhm,
And we've come out the other side. And I think too, what we miss a lot of times is when we finally put the drug or the drink down, what we're left with. I don't think people understand how we have to learn how to navigate our mind and how it's like a trap and how we feel. I just wanted to crawl out of my skin. I just wanted to hide. I was so afraid, and then trying to talk to people about that maybe they're trying to help, and they do help,
mhm.
but they're learning this out of a textbook,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
which is awesome. Like, I'm not
Right.
saying anything negative about that,
Well,
but
no.
I feel when I found other people in recovery, I found my home. I'm like, this is where I fit.
Mhm.
They know I mean, people would be able to tell just by looking at my face that I was off that day. I didn't even have to say anything.
Right.
And I think that's vital that we're able to connect. And I've also found by learning to care about and love other addicts and other people in recovery, like, you learn to love yourself. By accepting them, we accept ourselves.
Right.
And that was the hardest thing, I think, to do,
Mhm.
because we always want to run. Like, I knew what I was, but it's like we said, we have those biases and we have prejudices against other people when we're using, because we're rejecting that part of ourselves.
Right. And let's be honest. I mean, you have, numbed yourself for so long, and, so the only thing you are feeling day in and day out is the high or whatever, that you have, like, you've suppressed that for so long that once you get clean, you are a mental mess.
Yes, and you're relearning how to do things without that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the fear, it is crippling. It is absolutely crippling.
Right. So, yeah, and then, in my early stages of recovery, not only was I dealing with figuring out how I was going to get sober and how I wasn't going to do this anymore, I had to worry about selling everything I owned and figuring out where I was going to go with my life.
And being a single mother through that.
Yep, and having to explain what had happened to my kid and the embarrassment of living in a small community where everybody and everyone knows that feds busted into your house and arrested your ex-husband. And I mean,
It's
it
a
was
lot to process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it took me, like I said, a good 2 years to really start working on myself and my program, and, looking to the
Forward.
future. Yes. Which I had never really done before, because I was stuck in the fact that I was just going to be a raging addict for the rest of my life. And so, and so now I can look back and see the different stages that have happened since, I decided to get sober. And, it's forever changing. And, surprisingly, because I'm the type of person that wants to just do everything at once and get it over and done with, I did not do getting clean and changing my life and changing my mind and working on myself all at once. It's
gradual.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. Like,
But that's not me. Like, I have got to do it all right now.
and I think we all feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's we can't, and so it's almost like that in itself is a learning experience.
Yeah. And so, after, 9 years of, working with the commission, I was afforded the opportunity to work with a wonderful defense attorney and his partner. And so, I've been there almost a year now. A couple weeks, I'll be there a year.
That's crazy. It feels
Congratulations.
like you just
Yeah,
left. We're
I
so happy. We
know.
miss you a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So, I'm still learning with that because I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. And so, again, and it's crazy the amount of people that will take a chance on you. Like, unbelievably amazing for them to hire me as someone with no law firm experience. I feel like I'm doing well. I presume that they would tell me if I was.
I'm sure you are
well.
doing well, Leah.
Yeah,
sure.
but it's been a wonderful experience.
I'm so happy
I'm
for you.
getting the chills.
I just got
because,
the chills too.
like, just remaining teachable and
Always.
like feeling that sense of what else is out there and what
And
is
believing
calling
in
to your
yourself.
heart.
Yeah.
And believing in
bless
yourself
you.
enough
Yeah.
to try.
Yeah.
Well, and fun fact about that, they, my boss afforded me the opportunity to get my notary.
That's so cool.
Amazing.
So I take my test on Friday.
Yeah.
And you'll do
oh,
great.
God.
Congrats and good luck. That sounds awesome.
So it's forever changing. Here I am, going to be 49 years old in July. It seems like just yesterday I felt I was lost in the abyss of nothing. And I am a completely different person living a completely different life with completely different attitudes and beliefs. And, I'm a different friend. I'm a different mother. I'm a different partner. It's just crazy when you look back to see where it all started and where you are now.
Yep. Would you want to tell us about your fur babies? We love the fur babies.
Oh my God.
And Leah also has.
What is that, a barking dog?
Yeah, it
was. Oh, yes. That's forever changing as well.
Yes. There's always room at the end, right?
Yeah. You start out with a couple kitties. You end up with 4. You start out with a dog or 2. You end up with 4. So my life is pretty much spent cuddling fur babies all day long. So
I could stand to hear that all day.
That's
I love it.
that's my joy. My joy is my pets and my husband and my friends and just living
your best life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And who would have thought?
How about it?
Who would have thought? I certainly didn't. Coming from the person who thought they would be lost in their addiction forever.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, and that's the most overwhelmingly positive thing that could happen in somebody's life is to come out of that chaos. And that, the chaos that I was addicted to and thinking like, I just live this way. I live in a rat's nest of a life that I'm just crawling and scathing and like hurrying around and rushing, thinking when's that, the next drug or the next use, the next party, the next whatever it is. And taking that energy and just using it for positivity, for support. I love it, Leah. Thank you so much for sharing everything. That was incredible.
Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
It's
much.
so inspiring. So
Oh,
many people are
thanks.
going to hear this, and
Oh, thank you. Started off a little rocky. I didn't know where I was going with it all.
no,
but
it was
here we are.
fantastic. See, we're our worst critic. It
Yeah.
was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank
coming.
you
Yeah.
for being here with us.
Absolutely.
It was great. It's great to see you, and we miss
Yeah.
seeing you around the office, but we're very
Yeah.
happy for you
Well,
too.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you guys allowed me the time.
Why?
to
Of
do
course.
Sure.
this, and
Well, thanks for reaching out. I mean,
Absolutely.
we kind of put an open bulletin out. Hey, anybody
Yeah.
that wants to come on, please let us know. And
Yes.
Well,
you had the
and I-
courage to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, recovery isn't black and white. There's no one way to get clean. There's no one way to get sober. If you have 15 recovery dates, you have 15 recovery dates. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you give up alcohol today and 6 years from now you decide you're going to give up drugs, wonderful. I
Yeah.
don't think that there is one single way to get clean as long as you get there and live a happy,
Fulfilling life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And we celebrate all successes.
absolutely.
Happy to be a part of it, guys.
Yep.
Yep.
Me too.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us on
Zen Farmer.
We'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Another episode airing on Friday.
Woo!
Yep. So stay tuned. Also, Kurt, do we want to talk about the Spring into Recovery?
We do.
Yes, we do. When is it?
So
April?
that's Friday, April 12th at the DuBois Mall. All day thing. I believe it starts at 2 o'clock. Well,
I think it starts earlier, doesn't it? I don't know.
We'll
We'll clarify this on Friday.
We'll
We're
put it
not
in-
very prepared.
we'll put it in the description below.
Yes. See the description.
Anyway, this is a great opportunity to meet folks like Jen and myself and other service providers in our area.
Yeah,
come
come network. And
we'll be hosting our all recovery meeting where the Gardener's Candies used to be in the mall.
at 2 p.m.
So another great opportunity to check that out.
And we're also, again, here at 476 Jeffers Street in DuBois. On Fridays at 2 p.m., we have our all recovery meeting. That's for anybody that's in recovery, anyone that supports the recovery community, and any family members. All are welcome. We'd love to have you.
We have coffee and Nutri-Grain bars.
Yes, we do. We had cupcakes last week. You missed out.
All right, gang. Love you guys. Y'all
Love
take
you.
care. Thank
Bye.
you. Oh, here. We'll play us out.
And I swear.